We're back as promised with Bill Kristol and joined by Anthony Scaramucci, who did a stint as a White House communications director and is a very vocal defender of the president. Good to see you both.
It's good to be here. Bill's still negative on the president?
Well,
catching a little bit of that?
One of the things we try to do is have substantive discussions on this show. We did that with two sides of an issue at the top of the show. We're going to do it right now. So I want you both, as I know you will, to lead with the evidence. Anthony, you just heard Bill Kristol lay out what I think to a lot of viewers is a very persuasive case. Bill added that he was personally, physically nauseous by the president's conduct. You could disagree or not with that. But what he laid out and what we showed was a pattern of cozying up to authoritarians, to strongmen, to dictators in a way that Bill argues is contrary to the national security interest, to say nothing of what a cheap shot it was at Biden on foreign soil, which is the kind of thing that, as you know, your party used to make a big deal out of. So I give you your time to respond.
Okay, well, you guys will probably be surprised with this. A lot of what Bill said related to the Joe Biden stuff I actually agree with. I guess the issue that I have, and I want to ask Bill and you this question, I think the president feels like he's under siege, and I think he feels like a lot of the attacks on him, particularly the propagation of the Mueller report, now the move for the impeachment process and all that other stuff has painted him into a corner, which is why he is reacting the way he's reacting.
And just to get you on the record, and then I'll take your point to Bill.
Yeah.
What was wrong with what he said about Biden on foreign soil?
Well, I don't think anybody that's been studying the foreign policy of the United States or has been studying the presidency over the let's say since the end of the Second World War thinks it's a good idea for any president to go on the attack of a fellow American that served the country the way the president did. Okay, so the president will disagree with me on that, but I think that's bad news. And then secondarily, the North Korean dictator has not yet complied with some of the agreements that he was talking to President Trump about. And so then to decide with him because he called Vice President Biden low IQ, it's not helping the president.
You think that's not positive, but you're pressing
if
Bill on the idea.
If I'm a supporter of the president, I would say to the president, that's not helping you, sir. You got 36% of the people, they're going to stay with you. You need 15 to 18% of the people to win, and you don't want people disaffecting from you over style.
You talk like he's almost watching.
He might be watching. He has a tendency to record a lot of shows.
And then what you're saying to Bill is that having conceded some of that ground, you're saying that you still think there's an unfair pursuit of him post-Mueller report?
Bill's obviously a very, obviously an intellectual, and he's very thoughtful about this stuff. He's very well read. So I'm asking Bill to put himself in the president's shoes, or be for a second one of the president's advisors. Can he understand at times where the president is coming from as a result of the onslaught that he's taken for the last 27 or 8 months?
I don't know. I'm not. The president said things about John McCain and many, many other things that were pretty indefensible long before Bob Mueller. He'd ever heard of Bob Mueller. But I take, Anthony knows him, so I take your word that maybe he's wounded and lashing out a little. His advisors should tell him not to. I respect Anthony Scaramucci for saying what he just said. I wish some Republican elected officials who were elected by their constituents to serve the United States had as much courage as Mr. Scaramucci, who's a friend of the president and who has no stake in saying what he just said, but I think he just said what he believes. Isn't that amazing? Actual Republican senators and congressmen are less forthright in criticizing the president than Anthony Scaramucci.
But I'm not really trying to be critical as much as I'm trying to be constructive. I'm just
being
saying
honest.
There's no value to that. And so what I don't like also about the whole Trump support thing is that it's become very binary. I don't think it needs to be that binary.
It doesn't have to be as binary.
You're either all in the tank, or then therefore you're against them.
Anthony
That's
and
not
Bill,
true. I'm for them, but I want them to do better.
Let me get you both on something else. You talk about the learning curve. I mean, Donald Trump either is so ignorant of how the Constitution works that he thinks he can bully the Congress out of its investigative role, or he knows it's bad, which would be worse, and he's just trying to extort them. But rather than playing it, I'll just read to you when he said, oh, well, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to grind the government to a halt. We're not going to govern, Anthony, if they don't cease the investigations. Isn't that a misunderstanding of our Constitution?
No, well, that's his playbook. I mean, that's been his consistent playbook for 40 years. Somebody that's attacking him, he's going to punch back 7 times. And so he views this going on with the Congress as an attack. He feels like the Mueller report, and again, we can debate the Mueller report, but at the end of the day, there's nothing that I can see, and Bill can disagree with me on this, but there's nothing prosecutable. I read all 448 pages of the report. Some of it smells bad. Some of it doesn't make the president look good. I'm not here to be an apologist for the president, but I'm here
But you saw
to say,
Mueller's view was that Donald Trump tried to obstruct the probe. That's bad. You could disagree, but that's what Mueller...
I understand that, but if you looked at the comments section in the report, a lot of what he was doing was a result of his personality in terms of wearing everything on his sleeve, and less so related to criminal intent or what's known as mens rea.
Would you say, Anthony, he has an obstructive personality?
I would say that he has a protective and a defensive personality, and I think at the end of the day, I mean, William Barr, up until a couple of weeks ago, was a very well-respected guy in Washington, 45 years in Washington. Rod Rosenstein, who I went to law school with, was literally in my section. We know each other for 33 years.
Was he a gunner? I bet he was a gunner.
Well, let me tell you something about him. Okay, he's a by-the-book sort of a guy. He's like a Boy Scout. So to me...
Not a bad thing. It just means, I know what you're like. You raise your hand a lot. You want to get in?
I didn't, actually. I was like hiding in the back, actually. I was smart enough to know that I wasn't the smartest, so I was hiding in the back.
You were hiding in the back of the Harvard Law class?
I was, yeah, actually. You could ask any of my
We're out of time. I find that hard to believe.
I can't believe I'm running out of time. The point I'm making is those two guys made a summary conclusion. A lot of people disagree with it because of politics. But at the end of the day, okay, the president's like, okay, that's over. 26 months later, let's move on and let's govern.
Right.
So that's where the frustration is.
And you bring that perspective. And Bill, I got to cut it off here. You got more time in the earlier segment. Again, I appreciate both of you having the debate and Anthony making some of the points that Bill was giving you credit for. How about that, gentlemen?
I just want to be honest. I think it's important at this point. We got to call like it is.
And again, not to make light, but Bill, did you know Anthony was hiding to avoid being seen while at Harvard Law?
I've always thought that was his character. You know, kind of a shrinking violet.
I broke out of my shell after I met you, Crystal. It was a couple of those debates that we've done on a live stage.
What is the word? Risible, I believe. You take the risible surprises where you can. Scaramucci, Crystal, thanks to both of you. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.